Happy to begin?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Brilliant. It's the 17th of March, 10 on the dot exactly. I'm with Dave. So, what was your childhood like? Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? I was born in Bognor Regis by the sea. I had a great childhood, really. Loving family, I had two other brothers. My father was a self-employed painter and decorator, my mum was a shop worker. And I can safely say we had a reasonably happy childhood, really. We weren't the richest, that's for sure, but you know what we had was good, and I think I look back on fond memories of that, really. When I was a child, my dad and my grandfather used to talk to us about army days. My granddad was in the First World War, my dad did national service, and I suppose indirectly they brainwashed us a little bit about the army. So when my middle brother was 16, joined the army. When I was 16, joined the army. So I left home, or we both all left home fairly early in our lives. And then I proceeded on a military career after that. But yeah, my childhood was quite good, I think.
Were you a good student at school?
I think the best time for me at school was when the bell rang and I went home, I think. I won't lie, no. I was good at art and I was good at woodwork and practical stuff that I liked. The rest of it, I just muddled through like everybody else did, really. But I wouldn't say school was my number one.
What were you like as a kid?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, really. I mean, I think I was all right. I've always had a bit of funny bones a little bit, so I probably was a little bit of a joker at certain stages, you know, just to cover situations, I suppose, you know, when I was uneasy or whatever, I used to make a joke about stuff. But I think, you know, I don't think I was a bad kid, I don't think. My mum and dad would be the only people to ask, really, but I don't remember anything severe going on in the life, so hopefully I wouldn't say I was an angel, but I was somewhere in between.
What was your dream job as a kid?
Well, I just mentioned it, really. I think,
Army.
you know, indirectly we were brainwashed about, you know, how the army was going to make, you know, men of us and all that, and so I think really, and that altered my school life, really, because once I'd pursued to get into the army and now I was accepted, everything else I didn't really care about anymore, because I suppose ideally that's what I got my dream job, you know. So, you know, that's really where I went with that.
How much service did you do in the army?
25 years I did, yeah.
All around the world, or?
Well, I'd like to say all around the world, but no. A lot of UK postings, Germany, that sort of stuff. Detachments to various countries like Kenya and stuff like that. But it was mainly the UK and, Germany, really.
What's your favourite colour?
Blue.
I guess that gives it away.
It's not my choice, no. It's the county colour for the council. So.
Do you have a favourite item of clothing?
Not really, I don't think, no.
What experience changed your life?
Changed my life. I think when you lose somebody close to you, it makes you realise your mortality a little bit, I think. And I've lost work colleagues when I was in the military. And, you know, that sort of makes you regroup a little bit. It doesn't make you live every day as if it's your last, but it certainly makes you, you know, realise that you are fragile on this world, I think. And so I would say an incident with a colleague has changed me a little bit. For the better or for the worse, I don't really know, but I'm definitely more conscious now. And
do you have a guilty pleasure?
A guilty pleasure? I like my motorcycle, I suppose. I could put that in that category. Yeah, I've been riding motorbikes for a long time and I still enjoy and get a smile on my face when I can not necessarily have the opportunity as much now, but when I do, I like to get out and about. And my favourite thing is going on tour somewhere. I think getting onto a boat, or even if it's to the Isle of Wight, it doesn't matter. Just getting on that boat, getting on that ferry. That's when, to me, it's all. It's a bit like when people go on holiday and they love getting to the same place. I just like the thrill of riding somewhere I haven't ridden before, and whatever comes with that.
What motorbike do you have?
I have a BMW GS Adventure thing at the moment.
That's more of a modern one, or?
Oh yeah, it's modern. It's more of an adventure bike. It goes off road and on road and stuff like that. Not that I take it off road much. It's too heavy to pick up.
Have you travelled much?
Compared to who, really? I mean, I've been. There's a lot of the world I haven't seen, put it that way. But I've been to a few places. Some exotic, and some with nasty people in, and other people on holiday. So yeah, I've been all over. I've been a reasonable place, Africa and Europe and America and Canada, and I've never been to Australia or anything like that. I'd love to do that, but it's finding time for all these things and the money.
Any of the places you've been to stuck with you?
Funny enough, it's closer to home really. I've always loved Scotland. I'm not Scottish, so I've not got no Scottish bones in me whatsoever, but I think going into the Highlands, it's just a special place.
It's beautiful up there.
And I think it's almost like a hidden gem really. Although people know about it, people never bother to go up there. And then once you get in the West Coast and once you get into the Highlands, it's just unbelievable. You can be in a different world. The only other place that sort of gets me a little bit, I'd like to go to Norway and do the Norwegian coast and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Which is a very similar, place really, I suppose. But yeah, Scotland is, I don't know what it is.
What music do you like?
A bit of everything really. I don't keep up to date with what's in the charts, but I hear a record and I like it, and I might pursue that artist for a little while, on Spotify or whatever. Yeah. But I cover everything. I like to listen to classical music when I'm driving. Just calms me down. I quite like that. And then I like, I don't not really rock and roll sort of stuff. But who doesn't listen to Elvis Presley? But I cover everything really.
You ever had like a particular favourite artist?
No, not number one really, no.
So what is your current job?
I'm retired. I retired 2 years ago, right on COVID, but the opportunity to have redundancy, I took it, so I retired. Yeah.
How did you end up working as a town crier?
That was, I wouldn't say I was drunk, but it was in a pub, that was for sure. I was down in our local, having a drink. Sam, that works for the council, just happened to tell me that Stan, the outgoing town crier, was retiring, and in a moment of weakness I said I could do that. And then what seemed like a nanosecond, I was here having an interview with the council, and then next minute I'm walking around with a top hat and belt. So really, yeah, it was just by off chance a conversation, and here we are.
Did they do the whole "let's hear your voice" or?
Not so much, no. They sort of took it as read that when I applied for the job, I could shout a little bit.
Sure.
I've had no complaints yet, anyway. So.
What does your role consist of?
Well, basically, I promote the town, really. Yeah, promote our wonderful town, market town. I do support the mayor in various stuff, and I'm contracted to like 12 functions a year, which means that things like farmers market, the market on Tuesday, the Christmas market, stuff like that. I do that throughout the year, and any other thing that comes up that the council want to get me involved. But my primary role is just to welcome people to the town and make them feel happy and make them feel welcome. We have a great town here, and the more people that come in and see it, visit it, the better. What's
the best and worst thing about the job?
Well, I think the best thing's meeting people and getting a good reaction is always good, you know. Worst thing about the job, you know, sometimes when you walk down the high street and there's one person in it, you're not got a capacity crowd. Especially when you ring the bell and the one person walks off. But no, I don't think that, you know, I suppose an audience that doesn't listen, I suppose, would be the worst thing. But generally, it's just the good things outweigh anything else, that's for sure. And you get wet, obviously, if it rains.
Have there been any people or interactions that have stuck with you?
I think it was the first or second time I was out, the only complaint I got is that I made a child cry because I was too loud. But in my defence, they did wheel the child right next to me. So in my defence, it wasn't a deliberate act. But no, generally, it's nice when people say, you know, well done, or they have come up and have a chat and stuff like that. You know, you get you don't get paid for the job, so the reward you get is what people give you, really.
Do you think your work garment changes you in any way?
Sorry again?
Do you think your uniform changes you in any way?
Well, I think it's a persona, isn't it, really? I think anybody who wears any regalia or uniform is a different person when they're wearing it. You know, not that I'm a rogue without it on, but obviously you've got to watch what you're doing, you know, you are representing the council and you're representing the town. So there's a certain amount of, once you put it on, you've got to make sure that it's clean, tidy, looking smart, and you know, and the way you conduct yourself in the town is, you know, because people do notice you. There's only one of me and hundreds of them, so you know, good or bad, you sort of stick in their memory. So that's probably the only thing really. But internally, no, I'm the same person. You know, I like a laugh and joke, and inside and outside the regalia, really. But yeah, there's obviously a little bit of formality that goes on when you're wearing it. Yeah, it's not a clown's outfit. You know, I'm not the court jester of Alton. I'm here to do a job. You know, so that's the way I treat it. You know.
What's the most painful thing you've been told?
Painful.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think my mum and my son got diagnosed with cancer at the same time.
I'm sorry to hear.
And unfortunately my mother went down the route and never came back, and luckily my son survived. So, and that all happened in the same week.
Oh my God.
So that was a bit of a painful experience.
Who was your first love and why did you fall in love with them?
Oh God. I don't know really. There's not one. And I don't think I was that brilliant with girls when I was at school, to be honest. So there was probably girls that I liked from afar. But I suppose I've got to say my wife really.
What is your best joke?
Oh, that's not good. You can't put somebody on the spot like that. It's bound to be a dad joke, isn't it? So I'm not going to go there. I'm Fifth Amendment on that one.
What's the most rebellious thing you've ever done?
Rebellious? I'm just thinking of incrimination now. I don't really know. Have I done anything rebellious? Not consciously, I don't think.
Are you afraid of death?
No, I don't think so. Like I said before, I think, and particularly when you get to a certain age, you know, when you get to a certain age, I think your mortality, you think about it a lot more. And when people, well, 9 times out of 10 it's somebody famous, but when somebody dies and you think, oh, they're only 10 years older than me, or they're 5 years older than me, it does make you feel that you're in that bracket. So I'm not frightened of it. When it happens, it happens. You know,
Yeah.
I just hope that I've got a few more years left. There is a bit of longevity in my family. So my dad's 95, so I'm hoping that I'm going to head towards that direction. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. I think the worst thing about death is what you leave behind.
Yeah. What's a piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
My younger self. I think I would have worked a bit harder at school. I'd like to have learnt a language properly.
Mm.
I go to France quite a lot now, and I do regret, although I can converse in French, but I wish I had studied a bit more. It would have been nice to be able to, fluently speak French, that's for sure. But yeah, I think at school would have probably been the only sort of changing period. Other than that, I think, I worked hard through my military career and in my careers after that. So yeah, I think you just, is there a door that I would have chose? No, I don't think so. I just think just piled through the same one.
Mm. And finally, presuming there is a heaven, what would you want God to tell you when you arrive?
Stop ringing a bell.
Fantastic.
That was almost my best joke as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's all right, mate. Yeah.
So that's the interview bit over.
Good.
As a show of thanks, I'd like to present you something. So, this is something I've done for you.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.